you are a manager or an employee with a difficult boss, our next guest is known for transforming difficult leaders into visionaries. Please welcome Dr. Katrina Burris. And Dr. Burris, I have to ask, where did you come up with this brilliant jerk?
Brilliant jerks, because I have a lot of clients that work very brilliant, very expert at what they do, but unfortunately they were interpersonally blind and had difficulty engaging people or having them participate in a more active way. So that's what it is. It's the dichotomy of being such a good expert that they were promoted into top management position without the knowledge really of how to manage interpersonally and communicate. So that's why I chose that word.
I love it.
Even though I could have said another one, but I think you get the message quickly.
Absolutely. Another word that we probably can't say on this particular network. But how do you transform those brilliant jerks into inspiring leaders?
Well, first of all, a lot of them think if someone's going to make them more interpersonally savvy they will think that they're losing their strength, because some of their ways is get directly to the point, take the shortcuts, say what you have to say without realizing that it can affect people very negatively. So first of all, they're not usually wanting to do anything about it. So what I do is do research data of their stakeholders and bring it back to them with what their strengths are, because that's what will make them win, succeed, be more efficient and effective, but also what is getting in their way to getting to the next level. So I let them decide what they want to do about it. But when I give them very concrete data, it's a bit of a shock. And usually they say, okay, can I really change those things? That's the first question many of my clients ask. And then we work on it. So that's the first step, just to convince them with data. And then it's also a lot of self-awareness. Also, usually they're triggered. If something affects their prestige or their recognition, they will react or get into the way of the results they want, or it's not quick enough. They get very upset. Sometimes they don't even realize that they have a gift. They are brilliant, and that they don't realize that other people are not brilliant like them. So they have to realize their strength just as much as what could derail them long term.
I've got to ask, I can't imagine many brilliant jerks out there saying, oh, I've got a problem, so I want to see the data. So how do you get to those brilliant jerks and tell them and explain to them in a way that they can get that what they are doing to, for example, their employees is actually holding them back?
Well, first of all, it's usually the company that hires me. Okay. So they have seen the effect that this person has on their employees or their stakeholders. So then they come and ask me to intervene. So as I mentioned, the data, usually they're very bright. So if I can give them data that's very specific, that's giving them a perception that they're bad communicators, they know through that data what to do. And then we just keep working on it, and also be very aware, have them be more aware of where they're brilliant, and that not everyone is brilliant in their field. That sounds easy, but sometimes it is. It's surprising.
Yeah, for those people that are truly brilliant, but jerks at the same time, they don't get it. What are brilliant jerks' fears or even their triggers?
Their triggers often are that the person somehow is getting in their way of the results they want. Usually they put huge amount of pressure on themselves And if they don't get the results as quickly as they think they should, and that someone is in the way of the results they want, then they can get very triggered because they think maybe the other person's weakness, what they perceive as weakness, is going to shadow over them. And that gets them very upset. So it's to realize that. And also, usually they've received a lot of pressure to perform way back in their history. So sometimes we can look at where did this pressure to perform and absolutely have fabulous results in their area, for example, where does that come from? And surprisingly, there could be pressure from their background as children that, they were particularly recognized only when they succeeded and not. That can be very terrifying for a child.
Yeah. So, what are the costs of having a brilliant jerk and avoid uncivil behavior from becoming rampant in an organization?
Usually, when a brilliant jerk, as I call them affectionately, they have this pressure and they have this effect on other people. What happens is that people get demoralized, disempowered, disengaged. That is, and sometimes they've left mentally without even leaving physically. So they're less motivated to do a good job. Sometimes it can create a group of people that try to gang up against this brilliant jerk and mobilize people against them. It's happened that I've come in late in the situation and there's a coup d'etat somehow in the company. So that's very late to do any major change. And also on an organizational level, there's more turnover, there's more absenteeism, there's passive resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a brilliant jerk try to motivate them to do what he or she wants. Well, they'll pit one person against the other. So that doesn't encourage collaborative behavior.
So, have you witnessed transformations from these people being brilliant jerks to actually being motivators for their company?
Absolutely. So I just want to say one more unrecognized cost of a brilliant jerk is that people start behaving according to the brilliant jerk's mood instead of what's best for the company. So if there's a problem, who wants to go and tell the brilliant jerk? And so it has to become a crisis before the person, the leader, the brilliant jerk can do anything about that. That could be very detrimental for the company. And so how to see this transformation is really bring them very concrete data, how they can change and what perception is giving this. I'll give you an example. One person was very brilliant, turned around companies in Eastern Europe. But then when she was promoted to Asia at a top level, it didn't go so well. And they said, their stakeholders said, oh, she doesn't communicate very well. And I said, well, what do you mean she doesn't communicate? Tell me concretely. Well, she walks 3 steps ahead. And every time we ask a question, she rolls her eyes and says, well, yeah, for her, it was really easy, those questions. It seemed so basic. But unfortunately, that perception of nonverbal perception gave this reaction and this perception that she's a very bad communicator, amongst other things. You see, if you can give that kind of specific data, they look at it, they know what they're doing wrong. You see what I mean? You got to get that specific data.
So if there are companies out there that say, we've got this brilliant jerk at the top and we need help, how do they get in touch with you and how do they find out more?
Well, my company is excellent executive coaching, and they can ask for Dr. Katrina Boyce. And in a sentence, I really care for these people. I think inclusion is not only what we think it is today. I think inclusion is also helping these very bright leaders to transform and learn how to be interpersonally savvy. So I think the inclusion is them instead of firing them or putting them in a place where they have no direct reports. That's very expensive for the company. So inclusion is also helping them transform.
Thank you, Dr. Burris. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so very much.